And I believe Rhonda had her hand up first.
Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Because my mouse isn't working, so we're all having problems tonight of some kind. Um, I wanted to ask if I could use my 3 minutes for the topic at 9.2. Otherwise, I will use them now.
Well, as you wish.
I'd rather talk at 9.2 because I think it's more relevant.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Ted.
Sure, thanks. Hi. During this afternoon, I was looking at the special events law that you have proposed. And I tried doing what I always suggest you guys should do, or not you guys, but that the board should do before passing laws, which is to bench check it, to run it against actual cases. And let me not beat around the bush. This is not about Danby Food and Drink. It's about the law. And I used it as a case to bench check with.
Mhm.
And I ran into this funny thing about the word property. You'll notice in, I think it's section 2 definitions, you describe properties of a certain size. Well, as it turns out, I said, I drove by there the other day and they must have had 50 cars, all parked, well, all but 7 or so parked on the road and in the park. And I wonder how big that property is. I've never actually looked. And I went to tax maps and it says it's more than 2 acres, but let's just say 2. I said, wait a minute, there's no way that the area in which that concert is being held is 2 acres. In fact, I went then back to Google Maps, and maybe I wasn't accurate, but I got about a 1/4 acre, 10,000 square feet. So you have, according to the tax map, that he would fit into your category 2, your more than 1 acre, less than 5.
Right.
But in actual practical terms, he's a tiny subset of category 1, a 1/4 acre, 1/4 of of 1 acre. And I'm very uncomfortable with that because I can see situations. I mean, hey, let's say I rent out a 1/4 acre of my property to somebody who's going to put on a program. And he goes in there and this person looks at the law and says, okay, I'm on a property that's a couple of 100 acres. So this law doesn't apply to me until I get hundreds of attendees. I have no problem with a mere 100. In other words, the law as written, unless you redefine property to mean something other than what shows up on a tax map, you can't, it's too easy to imagine problems that would come up in the past. Now, I'm not saying you should rewrite it so that you want to cause problems for Danby Food and Drink or for Silent Hill Cider or any of those, but you're not writing a law about a particular, I hope you're not writing a law to benefit a particular person or persons. You're writing it so that it works for everything. And I think you should reconsider how it is done. I realize that at this point it's fixed until the public hearing, and I'm just giving you food for thought before you even start thinking about comments for the public hearing. I think you have to rewrite it so that it reflects a meaningful situation. Perhaps it could be the part of the property that the presenter has the right to use. Because as we all know, across from Town Hall, there's just a 1/4 acre that can actually be used for presenting the concert. Okay, maybe it's, 0.6 acres, 0.5 acres, 4, 3, it's not an acre. And I think you should really consider whether the law can be meaningfully enforced. In fact, the whole thing the way it is written, it relies on the person, on the presenter, Kartik's a wonderful guy, but not all presenters are wonderful guys, to decide for themselves whether or not the law applies to them. He can say, I'm on a 2-acre lot. Everybody else looks at it and says, you're on a 1/4-acre lot. But he gets to decide unless the town wants to take him to court, which you don't want to have to do. And I'll just pass on one other comment. In the last part of your section 2, I brought this up before and I'll mention it again. It says, does the event require admission or donation? Well, any good event presenter, sure, they would love to charge admission if they can control access and all of that, but they make their money off of selling t-shirts, selling food. In fact, I suspect that's exactly what the case is here. No t-shirts, just food. And so you've imposed a condition which once again does not reflect the actual what's happening on the ground. Thank you.
Catherine,
Okay, I will say first, I appreciate Ted's comments. I don't think this law is ready for review or passage. And I appreciate the comments he made. I also want to ask the town to formally designate Juneteenth. And I sent a letter to you showing that June 22 county resolution designating it as a work holiday. I hate that word for things like this. So those two things. And now I'm going to do the best I can to get through what I wrote. I would like to just address the misleading correspondence between a board member and Steve Seelan and the neighborhood regarding conflict resolution. I remind you that this is not a conflict between Steve Seelan and his 2 immediate families. I have been involved with this issue as a neighbor, a resident of Danby, a town board member, and a participant in email requests and comments, and an attendee at a meeting Steve set up last year where he set the agenda, and the recipient of postcards from him, et cetera, not to mention plenty of comments about me as a Karen in Danby. You all heard from the 4 named in Steve's email, but he failed to mention that there are many concerned residents in Danby. Those of us who have tried over the increasing problematic issues have spoken in meetings and correspondence, yet it looks as though both Steve and the board may still be painting 4 people, 2 neighbor homes as those who persist alone. And that simply is not true. And it is not right to continue to not recognize the rest of us and to point the finger at those 2 families. Of course, my issues have and continue to include that this is a precedent-setting issue, as well as the problem in the close neighborhood, to include my house, where I can hear words of songs inside my house. Mark wrote to those of us in the neighborhood suggesting that issues were not being communicated between the, quote, 2 parties. This simply is not true. Further, Mark wrote to us the neighborhood and said, quote, I want to more formally and forcefully suggest that you use the services provided by the Conflict Dispute Resolution Center. His suggestion that formally and forcefully does not invite mediation. Further, the long community meeting that Steve offered is available to listen to, where I was regularly interrupted and cut off. This is not fair to vilify the 4 neighbors and make us all look as though we are just complaining. Steve has not followed through on requests from us or the town regarding his business. There's much to say about this, and the direction of the resolution is pointedly not respectful.
okay. Thank you. Anyone else for privilege of the floor? Okay, hearing none. Well, there's a bunch of correspondence I see, some of which I've actually seen. Any announcements?
That's the biggest, I think, the struggle rolling papers to find it, but Mary Ann, Barr, who is the town historian, has put together a little project to honor, 250th birthday, and, Danby's only 215 years old, but, we're still a part of all this.
Mhm.
And she's soliciting interest for, a time capsule, somewhere, somehow, some way. So I would encourage members of the public to reach out to Mary Ann. If you email me, I can find her email. I can't find the thing that she emailed me with like a nice statement on it. But I really highly recommend if you're interested in potentially contributing to the time capsule. If one should come about, more information will be included in the newsletter. Yeah, I can't find a nice little piece of paper that had all the stuff on it, but, yeah, reach out to me or get in contact with her if you're interested in a time capsule, because that would be really, really awesome. Who knows, maybe it'd go on the skate park.
You would put it in the cornerstone.
We can put it anywhere.
Cast it in. Yeah. We've got 3 sets of minutes here. We've already approved, did we not, but there are revisions?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Well,
There's 3 sets of minutes here.
yes.
Didn't we already approve?
So the ones from the 5th were set for review at a meeting several ago.
Yeah.
But they were never actually approved because I needed more time to make sure that they were right. The ones from the 19th, I realized that I had double counted a number by accident. So I corrected the numbers, so they're up for repassage again, just with correct resolution numbers. Nothing has changed, it's just the resolution numbers. And then June 2nd.
Well, I for one did not get a chance to even read minutes for June 2nd because they came to us rather late. So and that's commendable that you got them done in 2 weeks' time, but
Yeah, law requires the draft at least,
Yeah.
within 2 weeks. It doesn't require the board approve them in
Right,
2 weeks.
right.
Which, I've taken the liberty of sometimes saying that it's for review. I don't feel that stipulation needs to be applied to these. But at the same time, I want, like Mark found an error that I left in there, and I appreciate that. That's why I, try and get things done as early as possible, but it does take me the time that it takes, unfortunately.
yes.
So, I try and think about 2 weeks of making sure that all my i's are dotted and t's are crossed, but I'm just a guy, it's not easy. So, yeah, if you don't feel like you're up to the June 2nd one, all good, we can delay those.
I don't,
Those come out my.
unless others do.
I looked at them, but if we can wait,
I think the May ones are good. I
Me
haven't
too.
read the June one.
so
Can we, well, how about, I move that we, I don't know if approve is the right word,
Except.
accept, there you go, the 2 May meetings
yeah, second.
as revised. Any discussion? Okay,
All right then. So it's here, Dylan,
Yes.
Larkins.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Gang,
yes,
thank you.
we okay then deferring second?
Yeah.
Okay. As Blake observed, there's nothing from Irene, right? Let's see, is Keith here? Because we do have business to conduct with Keith, but it will come up later in the agenda. And I don't see that he's here yet. When we talk about what roads are gonna get done, which ones we need to approve right away, which one, we need to approve right away. So let's deal with that when it comes up. You have some of the information that Ted conveyed by way of reports from the supervisor. There is an account transfer needed in order to make us in the black for things that we're going to be dealing with. And that is to deal with the supervisor's contractual account being over budget as a consequence of buying extra computer for a new person, which we did some time ago, but and now we have the imminently on able to use it. So the account is over budget by about 30 some odd dollars, but rather than just transfer to cover that, since we have the rest of the year to go, I'm suggesting we transfer $2,000 from the fund balance and put it in the budget so that there's some money there for the rest of the year.
What computer is this?
Essentially the one that Laura's going to have. It was bought back in February, I think.
Oh,
And Blake has it hiding someplace.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's not the one for Ted.
No,
Did we buy Ted one? Oh, so it's,
no, because Ted wanted to use his own, right?
oh, cool, okay. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
for Laura. Well, that's great.
Right. Yeah. So I moved that we transfer $2,000 from the fund balance to A 1220.400 supervisor's contractual.
I'll second.
Do you want to comment?
Who are you asking?
No, I was asking Ted whether he wanted to come in, look like,
No, I think we're only halfway through the year, we're going to be needing some money in that line, so rather than doing resolutions, piecemeal as we go through, it's probably a better idea just to do a piece now. If there's any left at the end of the year, we'll go right back into fund balance.
right, if we don't spend it. Question?
I can also speak after the vote, but I don't know, you guys want to speak after the vote, it's not relevant.
Depends on what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not particularly relevant to this vote, but it is about the same account line.
Okay. Well, why don't we vote on it and then you speak to it then?
Absolutely.
Ready? Yeah, okay.
All right, Dylan,
Yes.
Larkins.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Gania.
Yes,
Thank you. So, while I was looking at the reports from last month, or last meeting, I don't remember which, I realized that, so Julia is hired. It's weird because she works for me, but she also works for you in a sense. She's paid on
Yes.
your lines.
Yeah. because she was hired that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In January, she worked specifically in my office doing tax collection stuff.
Mhm.
There was a line in the clerk fund specifically that was dedicated for that. However, as of yet, I'm pretty sure that line has remained untouched. So I'm gonna do some triple checking on the math there. And Ted has been wonderful help with this. We've talked about it and they're like, oh, yes, yeah, that's what happened. But basically she didn't get paid out of the line that she was supposed to, and I believe all of those hours that would have been counted towards that line got counted towards the supervisor's account, whichever part-time
Yeah.
accounting assistant she is, yeah. So I believe that there is money that should have come out of a different line that will probably need to be reimbursed back into that line at some point. So that will also help with this sort of debacle, because, yeah, that should have been coming out of the line under the clerk
Yeah,
office.
right, we wouldn't be short had that been dealt with the other way,
Yeah,
yeah,
so I'm gonna figure out what the amounts should be. I'll double check. She sends hours regularly and it's
Mhm.
separated into, her usual stuff and then clerk specifically. So I'll find that time basically and put it together, so that way, you know how much to credit each line, and I'm sure Ted will have a wonderful little way to formalize that. But yeah, I wanted you guys to be aware of that, because that was something that totally, I hadn't seen anything about that, and then I see the report and I go, hey, wait a second, that doesn't seem right,
yeah.
so, yeah.
The more interesting question is we had, after several years of the bill processing being done by Laura, because the clerk's office wasn't equipped to do it, rectified that situation when Julia took it over. But now with Julia working both camps, we've lost one set of eyes there in terms of looking at the bills and reviewing them, that Laura was doing sort of before. Because essentially we put it back in the supervisor's side again, and I'm not quite sure how to deal with that, but
Well, you look at the bills and the invoices.
I look at the invoices that I see, but not every invoice comes to me.
Oh, right, like highway departments.
Yeah, some stuff goes straight to highway, there's some stuff that like, yeah, just doesn't make it to my eyes. If that's something that the board would like me to sort of take back over, I am more than happy to. With the, sorry, someone's. With of course the understanding that I am not necessarily, a trained accountant, but I can do math. So at the very least, you can have confidence in that.
It's nice just to have another set of eyes
Yeah, absolutely.
to catch things, because things, no matter how good you are, there are things that managers get. And we do have the board audit, as a
Yeah.
secondary step, but
If Laura Strawley was doing it, wouldn't it make sense to have the assistant to the supervisor take over that part of the role too?
conceivably,
Because-
because we can.
Just because that's, I mean.
Laura
she-
loves to do math things.
You
We talked
guys.
about this.
I think Laura's.
Laura, comment from Laura.
It's kind of hard for me to hear Blake. Are you guys talking about the payroll lines?
Well, not so much payroll, as bill processing, because, it was with with you for a while, and then we essentially, and it belongs with the clerk. And,
Yes.
for a while we had, when we had Julia handling it for the clerk, even though she was being paid under the supervisor's line, but at least we had, it was separate camps, and you got to review it after she did it, because we had two sets of eyes. But now your eyes are going to be focused elsewhere, and Julia's on both sides of the fence.
So any of her isn't her payroll doesn't come out of like the line item for the supervisor, and there is a separate line item for part-time accounting assistant. And there is a payroll line item for that, and that's what that always went to. When I would do the account analysis for you guys, I had hers all separated out where it needed to be in those lines. But I do understand what you're saying. Instead of it being for having all that in the budget for a part-time accounting assistant, we should take some of that budget amount and put it over in the town clerk's lines, have part of that line over in the town clerk category, because
There is some.
actually what she's doing with the bills is actually a town clerk function. But as
Yes.
far as everything being separated out to that part-time accounting assistant, and the account analysis, when I was doing it, we did that. Now, maybe Ted, when he was doing this account analysis, went to the payroll program and took some lump numbers from that probably did come into the wrong account. But we can separate all that out, and I have all that information. I'll work with Ted, we'll separate that all out, and then we can figure out where we want to get that budget amount to which category, town clerk or accounting.
Right, so there's two things going on. One is where did the money come from? Because this is all internal accounting. It doesn't make a whole lot of difference in the end. But what I was more concerned about the functionality of it in terms of having a second set of eyes, in the process, which you were doing, Laura, but won't be. So anyway, we'll work it out. We
get it
now
figured.
have, we have a competent crew.
Excuse me, Blake is not coming through. And I don't think that if that's a microphone next to his computer, it's not working.
It's working, I'm just quiet, sorry.
Mhm.
I'll endeavor to speak up.
Can you hear him now? Could you hear him say that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was a little bit, swallow the mic.
I am a quiet person by nature, unfortunately.
Yeah, yes, we can hear him, but only because our volumes are turned way up.
And I don't know whether we could adjust that volume on that thing or. Anyway, you'll have endeavor to. Speak up. Are we at the abstracts? I think so.
We're at the abstracts. We
Yep.
didn't vote on, did we vote on transferring that 2,000?
I'm not sure we did.
Yes.
We did,
We
okay,
did?
yeah, then we're up to the abstracts.
Okay. I do have a check mark for me. Yep, okay. Yes, you want to be Leslie?
Sure. I'll move the general fund voucher 203 to 233 for $28,299.53.
I'll second.
Any comments?
I was curious about the $800 for the sign. I did not see, is there actually documentation for that?
Yes,
Okay,
wasn't associated with the warrant?
I can't get back into
There
it.
was a letter, and then he said there was a picture. I didn't see a picture, so I didn't actually know.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
That's the only one
there's
that-
both a picture and an invoice
Okay.
of the signer, all split up.
And that was covered by,
Well, it wasn't covered by, the thing is, we got a beautification grant.
yeah,
It only covers material, it doesn't cover labor.
okay,
So we had, that's not the kind of thing you can get volunteers to do. So Michael Short did it, agreed upon $800 price. And I spoke to Keith about it, and because it's an official town of Danby sign, he was okay with having the money to pay Michael come out of the sign budget.
okay.
So that's where it belongs. That's what is that? That's 3310.4 is where it should be coming from.
Okay, that might have just been last year, right? Because the.
Well, the
beautification grant was last
beautification
year.
grant was last year, but we ran out of time to do the
Okay.
actual work. So, and the grant tour, counties said they were okay with us finishing it this spring.
Okay.
So once the weather got to the point we could be done, we did. Also remaining on that grant, but yet uncompleted, is the repainting of the gazebo.
Gazebo.
So again, Leslie bought the materials, but we haven't got it implemented yet.
Okay.
We're hoping to do that with volunteers, but hasn't manifested yet. So, any other discussion about it?
I had two other questions. One was, there was a fee for licensing the health department related to Jennings Pond. What was what license do we pay?
Every year we do that,
To run it, to operate it.
Swimming.
We pay them
yeah.
to operate?
We pay the health department for the permit fee, basically.
for, oh, it's like a permit
permit.
fee. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. The word licensing was
Yes.
confusing and I
Yeah.
didn't know what license they were issuing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a license to operate the program, essentially.
License permit thing.
There was also some confusion about whether we had anybody to run the program, but that seems to have been resolved when there was a lot of back and forth, that the having a swimming certification is a suggested but not required component of being pond director. And Mary Ann doesn't have one, she never has had, and neither did her predecessor enough in that job, but we're okay. And I don't know, because I haven't spoken to the relevant persons, whether or not there are any other applicants for either the pond director assistant or the lifeguard. Do you know?
I don't, I haven't seen anything related to that process,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I mean, we got the bases covered, but it'd be nice if somebody else applied. It'd be good to have some depth to our lifeguard.
Yeah.
But don't know.
who manages that?
Well,
Posting.
Marianne Kozak has done
No,
it.
but I mean the posting. Who knows how many people applied?
Oh,
I don't know who does that.
You know what, guys?
Laura did.
Good point. I'm gonna go up and check it right now, just so I have an answer for you by the end of this meeting.
Laura does,
Okay,
okay.
yeah, Laura
I'll go
did it.
check up.
This is a HR function, which we
Oh, yeah,
are
right,
in
HR.
process
Sure,
of
sure, sure.
addressing. Laura's always done it for us.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not always, for a long time. Has become effectively the HR department.
Right. My other question was about the Williamson, because there were 3 different lines and I just wanted to understand. It was $895. Was that just to add one more user to
Yeah,
They
Williamson?
do that.
So is that,
It's an annual fee.
it's an annual fee per user, so this is an additional license that we needed because you and Laura access it at the same time?
It's that dollar amount times 2 because we have 2 users, there's no additional cost beyond. But it is for payroll and accounting.
And so we previously only had one, but now we have you and Laura
Well, we were kind of,
sharing it.
yes.
But will we
And
continue
that's
to
not
need
kosher.
two? I guess that's what I'm wondering.
So Ted, you can, we can hear you, Ted. Ted,
Uh,
we can hear you, but they can't
Oh.
unless you use a microphone.
You can come and sit up here. There's a microphone.
This is
Yeah,
the
you can- this
microphone,
will work.
Okay, we need the accounting, we need to have 2 users in the accounting program because Julia creates the vouchers and I do the balancing.
Oh, got it, got
Okay,
it.
so,
You-
so
yeah.
we're kind of stuck with that. Now,
Okay.
the question remains, do we want to have 2 for payroll going forward? Right now, we do. We have Julia and Laura.
Yeah,
Um. If Julia's out sick and somebody else has to do the payroll, technically, I would think they can use Julia's login.
yeah,
It would be either myself or the assistant.
yeah.
So I think going forward next year, I don't think we should budget for 2 next year for payroll, maybe just 1.
One for payroll, but 2 for accounting.
Yeah, definitely 2 for accounting.
Yeah, no, that
And
makes
then-
sense.
And then, maybe we can do 1 for payroll.
Okay, and there was also an item in there that's actually maybe Blake's. It was town clerk support contract.
It's the same sort of thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just.
What the company does is they have these user fees, they charge it, it's helped them sustain their business.
Yeah, they're all just, they're very.
They are, well, relatively they're high, but others are a lot higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
And don't forget, he used to work for this guy.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, the clerk's office has looked at a lot of different software packages and this is by far
Just this.
the most inexpensive.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Very
And
nice.
also there's support.
Which accounts for why,
Oh, yeah.
They will, there was an instance where they sent out a memo and then 2 hours later, they're calling on the phone saying, hey, did you see the memo? We're here to do a software update right now. You ready? I'm like, all right, cool, great, right now, yes, sure.
I was just asking to understand.
no, I appreciate the questions, these are all good.
Yeah, that's it though. No other questions about the general fund.
We ready now? Okay,
All right, Dylan,
Yes.
Larkins,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Shannon,
yes,
thank you.
And I'll move the highway fund vouchers 96 to 106 for $20,531.63.
second. Any discussion?
All right, Dylan,
Yes.
Larkins.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes,
thank you.
And lastly, I'll move the water fund vouchers 16 to 18 for $221.10.
Second.
discussion? Both are okay.
All right, Dylan,
Yes.
Larkins.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes,
Thank you.
all right. I still don't see Keith, but Laura's here. We have, in order for Keith to do the capital improvement work on our roads, we need an agreement with him on what roads are gonna get done. And we do this piecemeal, kind of as Keith identifies what's next. And he's got the first piece ready, which is where we are. You want to speak to that, Laura?
That's just a decision that he has made as the highway superintendent, and this road hasn't been done. Well, the last time this road was done, I wasn't here, and I've been here almost 20 years. So it's in need. So he is just asking for your approval. It's going to be $175,000. He's asking for $175,000. He's going to do cold mix pave on it. This amount also includes a fog seal, and it includes, and we've put in there a dollar amount for doing the shoulders as well. It also includes the final chip seal that will come after that road, after the cold mix pave settles for a bit, a month or so. They will do the final chip seal. So that's what that includes. And we did get quoted. We also got quotes from Vestal Asphalt. So we've got quotes for this. So
Yeah.
Keith is just asking for you guys to approve to do Hill Road. And then the next board meeting, whether the next one or the next one after that, I think maybe the next one, we'll have a whole list of roads for surface treatment operations that he has planned for quite a few roads. And this amount of money would come from our chips.
Mhm.
balance.
And I was told that, that the clerk would have this printed out for us.
I forgot, that's my bad. Everyone can stick around, like 30 seconds after the meeting, I'll go print it off and you guys can all sign it.
Yeah. Because we need to do that.
Or even if you just print it off, Blake, and have it at the next meeting. Those meetings come along pretty quick. It's just so that it gets signed by everyone.
True. We could vote to approve this and then add our signatures later.
Yes,
I move that we do that, that we agree to this first component of the agreement to spend funds to use for Hill Road.
Second.
Any discussion about? Okay.
All right, Dylan.
Yes.
Martins.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Gagnon.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would,
Thank-
if Keith can join a future meeting, I would be curious because I get questions about how we choose which roads, and I don't know anything about it. It would be good for me to hear how he chooses, just so when people ask every once in a while, I could say, oh, well, this is what Keith says.
sure,
Uh-huh.
sure.
Right, I know.
I'm
He doesn't need
sure
to,
the
it doesn't
next-
need to be at a meeting. I could just call him or chat with him, but if he's here anyway.
Yeah, but
I'm
if you
sure
could.
he'll probably be at the
Yeah.
next one, because there's gonna be a whole list of roads, so.
Okay.
I think he had another commitment tonight if something had to do, but he will, I'm sure that he'll be here at the next one.
Yeah, I always tell people he's very accessible and anybody can ask him questions. And I know he'd be happy to explain. But that would be good.
Okay, I'll pass that along for sure.
Thanks.
Okay, good. Next up, the question of whether or not to issue a single party check for South Danby Road, CDBG contractor. I shared the background information with the board previously. Rhonda would like to speak to the question and happy to give her 3 minutes to do it.
Okay, let me start off very quickly. I hope you're taking notes because I think what you're getting from Joel is might be a little lopsided. So, first of all, I had a hybrid water heater in my basement several years ago, and the basement flooded, and the water heater was sitting in the water. And more recently than that, I received a bill from NYSEG that was charging me more than $13 a month for not having a smart meter. And I'm on HEAP, and I contacted my caseworker at the Tompkins County Department of Social Services and asked her if NYSEG had the right to take my HEAP money and use it in that way, as kind of a fine for not having a smart meter. And she said, well, I suppose, which meant that she didn't really know. And so I called the electrician at NYSEG who actually installed the smart meters. And I said to him, if you installed the smart meter, would it negate the work of the hybrid water heater? And he said, yes. And then he said, but we could fix that if we came out and we put in a smart meter, and then we put in a timer that your water heater could work off. That would solve the problem, and then you wouldn't be paying that fee. And I said, okay. So they came out, worked for 2 hours, the two of them, and they provided the timer for free at no charge, and no charge, of course, for any of the work that they did, and everything was working fine. And then Toma came along, and of course, they saw the bottom of the water heater and said, well, you need a new water heater. And so it was put on schedule that I would get just your ordinary 50-gallon A.O. Smith water heater. And when these things were written up by Phil Connery of Toma. And they were very written up in a very general way. So it would be written up as replace water heater. Okay, replace water heater. And this gives a contractor an idea of what needs to be done, and they can look at the site and see what sorts of things they have to do and what they might need to purchase and all of that. But this particular contractor took everything kind of literally. If it wasn't in the contract, he did not do it. And this happened so many times and caused so many problems. And so what happened was that instead of hooking the timer up, just hooking the timer up, it had originally been hooked up to the hybrid water heater, and he took out the hybrid water heater, put in the 50-gallon A.O. Smith water heater. He did not hook it up to the timer. So I was back to the same situation that I had before. I was on a smart meter, and yet I had no control really, unless I physically went down to the basement and actually manually turned on and turned off the water heater twice a day, which is what I'm doing now. And I kept saying to the contractor, you need to hook up this timer. I want the timer hooked up. And the water heater was replaced on March 3rd. And here we are in June, and we're still arguing about whether or not the timer is supposed to be hooked up. And he's telling me that he's not going to hook up the timer because it isn't listed in the work order. It wasn't part of the job. And it just became a horrible problem. And then he started to use the excuse that he was saying, well, the timer isn't working. I said, how do you know it's not working? You haven't hooked it up. And I called Intermatic, which is the company that manufactured the timer, and they said, if you have any problems with that timer, call us. We will have someone go through the timer with you. And if there's any problem, we will send you a new timer under warranty. And so finally, I don't know who talked to him, but the contractor started to hook up the timer. And for some reason, there are 6 ports. They're not legs or anything like that. So they're called ports by Intermatic. And he claims that the
You'll need to be more
ports work.
succinct, Rhonda, because you've already run past the.
Okay,
allocated
so I'm
time.
just finishing up. So they called Intermatic, and Intermatic said they would send out a new timer. The timer has come, and this guy is refusing to install the timer and is trying to charge the program when he needs to do the timer. The timer is there, brand new timer, and he needs to install it. And Joel, of course, is saying to me, well, you can put it up. Well, I know nothing about this, and I'm not sure I even have the tools because a lot of my tools were ruined in the flood. So that's where we're at. I definitely do not feel that this man should be paid any more money. Absolutely not.
Okay. And I've shared with the board why I disagree.
The work was done already to put up
Well,
the new
they
time?
put in, no, the timer, the contractor at the time that he installed the new water heater said that the timer was defective, it needed to be replaced.
It
Rhonda,
worked with my other water heater. It worked
worked with the
perfectly.
other water heater, but it didn't work when he went to hook it up. And he said, you need a new timer. She wasn't willing to believe it. So this went on, of course, and then we got to the end. And the program actually, in order to try to accommodate her reasonably, had Phil come out, spend time with Intermatic, going through and checking the timer, confirmed that in fact it doesn't work. And that you needed a new one. We're still providing a warranty, but at this point, all the rest of the work is done and it's an extra trip for him to do it. And as it was, he charged the program $400 to come up and confirm what he had originally determined, which is that the timer doesn't work.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't Phil. It was the contractor. And he claimed that port 6 did not work. And the person at Intermatic said, I've never heard of that. So just to be nice, the guy at Intermatic said, I'll send you a new timer.
Yeah.
So I still don't think the timer is defective, but he took it off.
Yeah.
Can we issue a change order?
Well, what's it to change? I mean, you know, if,
I mean,
if,
so this guy comes out and plugs in the timer.
but there's no money to do it with. You know, we're at the end, this is, Rhonda's was the last project on that round of CDBG grants. All the money has been spent. So earlier on, you might have had the latitude to say, okay, you know, this was a hidden condition or something and we can cover it. We don't have any money to cover it with. All the money has been spent. As it is, I'm not sure where the money's going to come from to pay the contractor the extra $400 to come out and say, yep, I was right. The timer doesn't work. But, you know, he didn't do it for free. Some of the stuff he's willing to do while he was there for an extended period of time, as Rhonda points out. I mean, it took him months to do all the things because this was a complex process that was involved in doing her project more than any of the others, both because of mostly because of the scope of things that needed to be done and the coordination of them. So.
I disagree. I mean, there were many weeks.
I
when
know,
he didn't
Rhonda,
do
but
it
you're
all.
not, you're out of order at this point.
So the request that's in front of us is for the town to pay the contractor for work that he already did.
Right.
And would we be paid back by the grant, or this is us using taxpayer, like?
No. This is us authorizing that which was contractually agreed to be paid by the program.
By the
Because
program.
normally, these are two-party checks,
Yeah,
us and the homeowner,
Okay. Okay.
and if the homeowner won't sign off, which is the case here, we're saying that he deserves to be paid. He did what he was contracted to do.
I understand. I didn't know what single party meant. So we're just writing a check from the CDBG account.
Authorizing.
Right.
Authorizing.
We're authorizing
Yeah.
a single-party check instead of the usual two-party check.
Okay, I understand.
So I move that we do that.
How much is it?
Oh, yeah, I don't remember.
Is it the $400 or?
No, it's not. It's the balance of who's still due to him. And I don't know, it's in the thousands of dollars, not.
It's not the whole 70,000.
No. It's that. In fact, his portion of the work was divided into pieces so that he could be paid along the way instead of just one lump sum at the end. To accommodate the fact that it took a good long time and it wasn't fair to him to have it all be at the end. But it's what's left of the contract with him that hasn't yet been paid. I've got that information here somewhere, but I didn't.
And this is what Toma wants to do, right? I assume this is.
Well, yeah, Thomas said, you know what, we do have the option of doing a single party check if the board authorizes it. So it needs to be a board vote saying, yes, we'll do a single party check.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know how much, well, I guess.
Does it really matter whether
Is
it's
it covered?
5,000 or
Is it
50,000?
Covered?
What's
by,
that?
CDBG?
Yeah, this is money that was
Okay.
budgeted and
It's
is
in
covered.
there. Okay.
Everything's covered except that $400, which we went off the end with. And it's not really clear who's going to pay for that.
That was extra.
And then, you know, Toma may end up eating that, but. Or they may ask us to pay it, or we can split the difference or something, but you know, there's no money to pay that.
But that's not what's at
That's not what's at issue here. What's issue here is just
Okay.
to pay him for the balance of the work that he did do, you know, under the contract. And, you know, there's arguments to be had about, you know, this was a contractor who wasn't on the list of, you know, people we've experienced with that do good work. Near as I could tell, he does good work, but it was stretched out. There was a lot of annoyance with, you know, things being started and not finished. But in the end, you know, it'd be like, well, yeah, you did it, you know, well, reasonably. He just thinks that this was not part of install water heater when, you know, no point in connecting a timer, it doesn't work. And it didn't work.
Is there documentation on CDBG projects?
What's that?
Is there documentation like pictures?
Oh, sure.
Documentation?
So anyway, I move that we authorize a single party check in its instance.
I'll second.
Any further?
All right, no comment. Dylan,
Yes.
Larkin,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Canyon.
Yes. Juneteenth. Blake discovered that this is not a town holiday. Um, and I discovered this is a federal holiday. It's unusual that we have a federal holiday that is not a town holiday, but that's in fact the case. It's also not one that the union has made part of the list. We already have one more holiday than the union contract calls for that covers the town employees that are not part of the union. I forget which one it is, but the question is, there are two questions here. Should we close town hall? And should we make Juneteenth a town holiday?
Yes.
Yeah, is it as simple as moving a motion that we add Juneteenth as a holiday to our employee handbook, or is there more
Essentially.
to it than that?
I don't think there's more to it than that. I mean, there are implications because you're essentially giving people a day off and you're paying them for it.
Yeah, it's a federal, I mean, it's a federal holiday. The place where I used to work, it was a nonprofit, but they would follow the federal holidays and we had Juneteenth.
This is the only disparity, I think.
Yeah.
Is this one.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, because Juneteenth wasn't federally recognized until pretty recently.
Yeah.
So, then given that the employee handbook is a little outdated.
About 20 years, I think. isn't it?
Yeah, years, so, yeah, Juneteenth was not recognized back then as a federal holiday, it is now. We've had some scuffles in the past, but issues in the past with me being like, well, there's a foot of snow, the county is off, I don't know, do I close town hall? So I want to kick it back to you guys, especially since we have, a couple days advance,
Mhm.
on it all. I won't be in, look at the color of my skin, I'm not coming in on Juneteenth. And I've talked to Cindy and she's like, I don't really want to, in so much as, she's a part-time employee and I'm not sure how the employee handbook actually handles, holiday time for part-time employees, whether they're.
Well, what it says is if the employee, the part-timer, normally would work that day, then they're entitled to pro rata a compensation for, and can take the day off. If they don't normally work that day, then it doesn't apply to them.
Yeah, then under that, Cindy and Mary Ann would be, if you adopted the holiday under that standard, Mary Ann and Cindy would both be entitled to that holiday pay.
And of course, so would the planner and the code officer.
Yes, yeah, although I'm not sure how, well,
Well, no, the question, how does this apply to salaried people?
yeah.
Well, the presumption with salaried people, and this is something I got clarity on after asking, is that they're working 40 hours. So basically they get the day off and they're still credited for 40 hours, even though they're not really working by the hour. Some people treat at their job like they are working 40 hours, like Steve. But normally you're not limited to 40 hours or even required to work 40 hours, flexibility. But when it comes to applying benefits, the presumption is 40 hours. So, you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we add Juneteenth as a recognized town holiday to the employee handbook.
I'll second.
I mean, I think I would say I would make it added to a list of regular holidays and added to the.
Yeah, is there a list outside of the handbook?
I don't know, but I'm not sure. I mean, the handbook is where they are listed.
Right.
But there should be a list of things that the town is officially designated as. If you see where I'm making a slight distinction.
Like we are officially designating that day as Juneteenth and adding it to the employee handbook.
Right.
Yeah, I'm fine with that being a reword of the same issue.
So can I have the motion entirely restated?
Sure. let me restate the motion. I move that we officially designate June 19th as Juneteenth, a recognized holiday in the town of Danby, and add it to the employee handbook.
I'll second. Isn't it?
Any further discussion?
No.
Okay,
All right. Dylan,
Yes.
Lawrence.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Daniel.
yes,
Thank you. So I would mark that, that town hall will be closed.
Yep.
Wonderful. I will do that first thing tomorrow.
on this other point, we're closing town hall. For occasions that are other than, designated holidays, the clerk is always free to close the clerk's office. But the decision to do that, because of a snowstorm or whatever, doesn't close the town hall.
Yeah, that was something that was not clear to me at first, and then found out trial by fire. Yeah.
Yeah,
I appreciate you raising it because I don't know that I've ever looked at the employee handbook. Or maybe I have, but only at specific sections.
Yeah, but only specific sections, because yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, that thing, somewhere.
well, it sent me running to it, and also it sent me to the union contract for
Yeah.
comparison, discovered, oh gee, they're not the same.
Yeah.
And to that point, which also pointed to the fact when I looked at the contract with the unions, I said, oh, it expires this year. We need to renegotiate. And thank you for volunteering.
Yeah, sure. Not sure that I'll have much to add, but I'll participate in it and learn.
It might maybe it'll go smoothly this time. Not that it was that rocky last time, but. Let's see. There is progress being made on the accessibility improvements for the town hall. And the committee met. And we have documents, but Mariah, you want to update everybody on where we stand in the process? And
Yeah, we made some slight changes to the final review documents. They had paving going right up to the building and we moved that out 2 feet so that, because there's a drain tile underneath the gravel that exists there. So we'll hold that 2 feet of gravel there so water can get into that drain tile. And we've extended the asphalt all the way to the
planter.
planter. Very minor changes. What else did we do? Something about curbing.
Curve. Well, we added a curve there because the slope of the descent from the road is actually too steep to be an ADA acceptable pathway. So to accommodate the parking, handicap parking in that space, you have to cut on the uphill side and fill on the low side. To flatten it out a little bit, which has been suggested adding a curve on the uphill side. Which is what we're gonna
Do you
do.
want me to share or do you have? You've got it.
Can you share so
I
that I
can.
can control it?
That,
So then we asked the question, well, what is all this going to cost? And sticker shock set in.
some serious sticker shock for sure.
And it precipitated discussion, well, do we want to proceed right away? Do we want to break it into pieces? Where's the money going to come from? And that sent me running to the accountant to determine where we stood with respect to our fund balances, because it was still unclear, because we hadn't closed the book yet on 25. But we're close enough now that both Ted and Laura could give us an update on where we stand. And I shared with you, but you may not have seen it because it was rather late in the afternoon. Laura did a fund balance analysis for us that shows where we stand with respect with the general fund, and how that has been changing over time, going back quite a few years. And it also shows that we're in really good shape with the fund balance, so that it's not unreasonable for us to use the fund balance to fund this project if we want to do that.
What was the price that they gave us or the cost estimate?
Yes, Mariah, do you remember?
Is that in here?
About 100,000.
Okay.
It was mind-bogglingly, it was like 8 to 10 just to do the sidewalk approach, you know, the curb ramps to this crosswalk. And then between 180 and 110, was it something like that for the other part?
We're just gonna have to get quotes. I mean,
Right.
who knows what things are at this point with the cost of diesel?
Yeah,
I mean, that's,
well, the cost of everything, you know, diesel, cement.
but that is the biggest variable as they have no project.
Transportation. So, so the architect or engineer, engineer suggested that we do a bid package that would make the crosswalk and the approaches the main thing to bid on, and then the accessibility, which is a much larger part, be a secondary consideration for which we'd like to also get quotes. And then we could go from there. Yeah, this is it's now
Scroll
being
down a little bit.
shown us.
Yeah, a little bit more. That's it. That's the one. No, the one with the pictures in the top. Yes.
Can't make it bigger, can we? Not quite that big. Try 75. 75 wasn't too bad, but. And then you could move it side to side, but there's the.
This is quite an east.
Okay. Can I use your wing thing? Oh, very good. I did. You get that. Okay, very good. All right, so this was gravel. Can you see the arrow?
Yeah.
This gravel is gonna be asphalt. This asphalt down here, 2 feet from the building, is gonna be gravel. We're gonna put a little curve in here. We need there's gonna be a 6-inch curve step right in there. And this asphalt is gonna go, you know.
Connect up to the corner, right?
Corner. Very minor changes. Oh, and these benches here, they're not gonna be here. They're gonna be, these more gonna be can you hear me? I'll speak.
We can hear you, but that's probably not
The benches will be more of a conversation pit than a line of, a waiting area. That's all I had.
So we're what, 2 or 3 weeks away from having final documents and a bid.
By the next meeting, for sure.
Yeah, and a bid package, right?
Bid package, yes.
So,
Well, and we can go out to bid if we have money.
right, so that was the other half of the discussion is, we do have money if we want to spend it this way. It could also come from the building capital reserve. There's about $189,000 in that account. But Laura suggested, since the fund balance is healthy, it's not an unreasonable use of it. That it might make more sense to pull it from there than from the building reserve.
Okay.
So, you know, if everybody's cool with spending that kind of money, you know, we're essentially paying it back over time. But the number I was fishing for, but don't yet have, is what does it take in terms of a tax levy to replenish? You know, an amount that we use for anything. And that is you know, a 1% increase in the levy translates into how many thousands of dollars is the question. And you're not really quite ready to answer that one, right?
That comes up in beginning July, or what it is, we take a new assessment for the current year.
Well, assessment's not changing.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's fixed for like 3 years, I think. So it's not significantly different than last year, so we know, but the amount to be raised in taxes, which is the number we had last time. Whatever that number is, 1% of it is what amounts to, in other words, in order to raise whatever it is, if 1% is $30,000, for every $30,000 that you raise from taxes in order to replenish what we spend from fund balance, it's a 1% increase in the levy. And the levy, of course, is what people see. So, if you're trying to stay under a tax cap.
We get, we collect about $4 million. So,
But some of that's it doesn't include the fire district.
yeah, that's everything.
Yeah. But I think the town part is more like 3, right?
Maybe a little less, because the county gets a big piece.
Well, yeah, the county tax is not big.
Not including the fire district, about 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that means that 1% is what, 25,000? Yeah. So,
250,000, 1% of 2.5 million. I don't do math in public.
mhm. I
Can
think
I
it's right.
just comment something?
Sure.
Okay. And I know that you're talking about, if you use it out of the fund balance and replenishing it and that type of thing. Let's just take a look at this spreadsheet right here. Even just look in 2024. In 2024, we increased the fund balance in the general fund by over $214,000. That was because we had received a lot more mortgage tax than what we had budgeted for. So that was a big share of that. So having a fund balance, as we're kind of anticipating at the end of 2025 from there, of over $1 million. I don't know, I mean, to use it just shows that due diligence by the board to be taking this money and doing something with it, like a project like this, or like, as opposed to going out for more tax money to replenish that you're using it for something and you're not hitting up the reserve someplace else. Just my kind of 2 cents on that one. So I don't know if really replenishing it is something that you would, but just using it because you have so much of it
We're in good
is
stead.
a good idea, is a good idea to put it, if you have to do a project like this, which I know it's kind of required, some of the things with the entranceway, that to use it for that without, thinking about going back out to the taxpayers for it, because you have it. And just last year in 2024, you added $214,000 to your bank accounts after total all operations. We're
Yeah.
anticipating another 80,000 for 2025, that's what that figure is going to be.
There's 2 things that benefited us and why we why we did so well. And the mortgage tax was one of them, and the other one is the ARPA money. We use that ARPA money for things that we would otherwise have had to use taxpayer money for.
Yeah.
And we made some very strategic, I think, effective decisions, and that saved us a lot of money. And it went to the bottom line, in terms of us having the savings now that we can apply elsewise.
So using some of this money that the taxpayers already gave you for a project like this, and still not really even scratching, anything from that would be, useful and sitting there. That's just my thought. I think that it would be a good idea, and it would show that that's what you're trying to be mindful of.
Oh, no. You sure?
Yeah.
I support using the fund balance for this. I think this is a good use of it. My question is, because you're talking about replenishing it, do we have, and this is something they talk about at the New York Association of Towns, do we have a fund balance policy that says what we want it to be and what we should keep it at? Or is that?
We should have.
We should, but we don't.
But we don't.
Okay, so we're not required by our own rules to keep it at a certain level that
No.
would,
There's no policy.
Okay.
It was a concern when I first became supervisor that we had, you can see if you look back, we were depleting our fund balance for a while, but then we've been, for the last few years, we've been increasing it.
Yeah.
And we're in really good shape right now.
Yeah, I think that looks great. I was just curious about that.
Yeah. So not unreasonable. So that's a reason, essentially, that's a green light, Mariah,
Yeah.
to say we're good, we're willing to go with that.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Let's do it. Let's get her done.
Blake,
May I interject a factoid for you?
a what?
Factoid.
Factoid.
Neither.
Sure.
Sure, it's neither plus or minus on what you're doing, but you should be aware that using a round number of 1,500 properties in town, $100,000 works out to about $67 for the average property. So you're saying you're spending $67 of the average guy's money on these improvements. Nobody's average. Most of the people think they're way above average.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Thanks, Ted.
Did you have a
I
question?
would gladly pay $67 to not cripple someone. Maybe.
Yeah, you know, when
4
that lady fell over on
That's
that
horrible.
horrible curb out there,
Yeah,
I'm so grateful that
yeah.
But I've been lobbying for this for years.
Lot cheaper than a lawsuit.
Yeah,
right.
This is true. You think of it that way.
that's all I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's the update and where we stand on that, and you know, we'll hear, we'll be in a position to go up the bid probably by the next meeting.
Yeah, I hope so. Rocking and rolling.
All right,
For all your work.
the special event law. We are, of course, having a public hearing next time. But now, why are you saying?
Because I'm accusing myself from all this questions.
Which I don't think is reasonable, but, we're at the point where we could do, we hadn't yet seen the application form, which Greg has shared with us, and which I linked to the agenda again rather late in the day. And see if anybody had any comments on it before we go to the public hearing, or we could just have it as the document associated with it. But the secret review is ready for us to wade through. I think, George, do you think we're ready for this?
Ready?
So, you will have to find yourself a working mic or use Blake's, but you know.
Oh, sorry.
You have to turn it on, here we go.
Um,
Can we screen share? The SEAF, I guess.
Why don't you grab that mic that Ted was using up front?
We could. There you go. There it is. So we can work our way through this. If you're going to be out of controls, you'll have to scroll first.
That's, hear me? I mean, we can. Okay, okay. Okay, so bear with me here.
So they have to use the mouse pad to or the down arrow maybe on that keyboard will get you to move that thing around.
There we go.
How do we get that stuff on the right out of there? That's okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
okay, so. I guess how would you like me to do this? You want to just quickly go through the form or?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, yeah.
Work our way down and maybe see if we agree with what you have prepped for us to say.
Okay. It, again, basic short environmental assessment form. The proposed action, you know,
adopting local law, and regulating large outdoor events in the town of Danby, New York, and also create a permitting process for such events. So that's the action.
Yeah.
And the project location, of course, is town of Danby generally.
Could be any place.
The entire town. Town hall. Yeah, does proposed action only involve the legislative adoption of a plan, local law, ordinance, administrative rule, or regulation? And the answer to that is yes. I did not feel it necessary to attach a description there, the description of the intent of the proposed action, because I think I covered it up there in the first statement.
Yeah.
Okay, but I guess if you wish, what you could actually do is attach as part of the short environmental assessment form, the draft law.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course, total acreage of the site is town of Danby, 34,272 acres.
Does that include the state forest?
What?
Does that include the state forest?
Yeah, this is the total area of the town.
Yeah. Could we ever have a special event in the state forest?
Well, the law is actually, law is in force. I mean, it's.
Yeah, in case the DEC ever wanted to have a party up there, they
Right,
could
the
do
DEC
it.
would have to be the ones hosting.
Yeah, technically, of course, you can't impose it on the state.
No, but yeah,
But no, this is actually the total land area. Down there.
yeah.
And number 5. This is, of course, subject to interpretation, but you consider any part of land to be urban.
No, so that was okay. So yeah,
But
we're not urban, but everything else.
that sounds like a very adamant. Oops. And again, a series of questions. It's a permitted land use under zoning, not applicable, consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, and that's another. And I actually copied from an old joint environmental assessment form.
Huh.
I guess you could say that, yes, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan, but. Look,
Yeah, I think you could make a case that it is.
so, and it's consistent with government character, the existing built or natural landscape, yes. There are no critical environmental areas.
Right.
in town, so no. Well, again, these are where attorneys start debating seeker, but. Okay, will the proposed action result in a substantial increase in traffic above present levels? The actual action is the adoption of a local law. Okay, so
Okay.
the action to that will be no. Our public transportation services available as a slightly proposed action, there is one, actually, I guess. I don't know where 67.
You can't say yes and no, because there are parts of town where there is no public transit, but there are also parts where there is.
But so yes, pedestrian accommodations, yes, there are some in the town, so.
So that's why you said yes, because there's someplace.
Yeah,
Somewhere.
yeah. Okay, exceed requirements, this is really not applicable,
Right.
the action. Meter exceed the state energy code requirement. Will proposed action, number 10, connect and mix the public-private waters supply, again, no. Will proposed action connect to existing wastewater utilities, again, no.
Even if the action is adopting the law.
This one, yes, there's a number of sites that are either eligible for listing or listed on the state or national registers in the town of Danby. Okay. I think there's one or two, I looked at the map quickly, that are actually on.
Do we have buildings on the National Register? Do we have buildings on the National Register?
I thought I saw a couple,
Yeah,
but not a lot. There's,
we have historic buildings, but most of them aren't listed.
yeah. But actually, there's half a dozen or more right here in Danby Hamlet that are eligible.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but nothing officially,
listed.
yeah, listed yet.
So I'm not sure that's a yes.
Uh,
Because I don't think we got any listed ones.
which one? Sorry.
On 12, I'm not sure that the answer shouldn't be no. Because I don't think any of our historic buildings are listed in the National Register.
Well, or determined to be eligible.
Did it say that?
I think that's what it says, or that has been determined by the commissioner, et cetera, to be eligible for listing.
This building is eligible for listing.
Oh, absolutely. But has that determination been made by the Commissioner of the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation?
And,
I don't
the
think
thing
so.
is, SHPO can unilaterally say this building is eligible for listing.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't think they've done it.
What?
But I don't think they have.
It's on a list,
Is it?
They did.
it's not on the list, but it is, yeah, you can look it up and it's eligible for.
It's definitely eligible. I mean, this building would be the Danby Church would definitely be.
I think the question is it on a list of properties that have been determined by the commissioner to be eligible? Is that what you're saying?
So that's a,
That's a key thing,
That's
determined by the commissioner.
And you're saying it is?
I don't know what this,
Or you're saying there are properties?
yeah, there's several properties in this vicinity.
it could
I
be.
got the map on my other computer, I can.
Okay.
If you like, just email it,
Mhm.
Yeah, you know.
just for informational purposes.
And if they could check that, you know, and if we can legitimately say yes, then by all means do so, but I don't know of anything that's actually been listed, even among the ones that could be.
Yeah.
Or been determined by the commissioner to be eligible either. Because nobody asked them. You think, what do you think?
Understanding there is a request to comment online from Catherine Hunter.
Catherine?
As you might recall, I did look into this for the town hall. And
Yes.
you're correct. If not already determined, it is not easy to get determined. And so I agree, Joel, that I don't believe we have any that are, quote, actually determined by the commissioner, whether they're even marked or not. The question was, are they determined to be? And I don't think so.
So if we could check. It'd be a good thing to do one of these days.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. In another life, I did a lot of work with historic properties,
Mm-hmm.
and I was on a first name basis with the SHPO staff.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, so 13, again. There's a lot of wetlands in Danby. And that's obvious, so yes. Any, would it physically alter encroaching or any existing wetlands? No. And then, of course, they just added a 10A for there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, again, identify typical habitat sites that occur on or are likely to be found on the project site. Shoreline, stream shore above, Danby, Jennings Pond shoreline.
Yep.
Forest, agricultural grass, native grasslands. early, mid-successional. Actually, I think that refers to forest.
Does it?
Then of course, wetlands and suburban habitats. Does the site, again, this is town, does the site of the proposed act contain any species of animals associated with habitats listed by the state or federal government as threatened or endangered? And yes,
Yep.
New York State has a number of areas in the town. Is the project located in the 100-year floodplain in part of the town? In the,
So I mean, you'd like to be able to say yes and no, because
yes and no.
part of the town is in and most of it isn't, but.
Yeah. 70, yeah, no. Stormwater discharge, no, will not flow to adjacent properties. Will be directed to establish conveying system runoff and storm drains, and again, no, we're not doing anything in terms of stormwater. Yeah, does proposed act include construction or other activities? And of course, regardless, no. Okay, this was, yeah, I wanted to make sure, but has the site of proposed action or an adjoining property with the location of an active or closed solid waste management facility site? Yes, in the Hillview Road landfill.
Yeah, which is at least a little bit in Danby. Most of it's in Spencer.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah. But you know, the Tompkins County landfill was mostly in the town of Spencer.
I'm sure they're back.
Yeah.
Okay,
But did you ever, wait a minute, Blake has a question?
Sorry, to clarify, because we have the little participants menu.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're over. There's a request to comment online. I'm pointing at I'm trying to like point at my computer screen when I raise my hand in this fashion.
Yes. I see Susan Perry has a question.
Yes, yeah.
Susan,
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
yes.
Okay. It strikes me that part 1, question 5, should not be NA because the law could effectively change zoning in certain areas by allowing commercial activity where they're not currently allowed rather than NA. That doesn't seem straightforward to me. The purpose of the law is to enable events in places where they're currently not allowed outside of commercial zoning. In addition, part 1, question 8 seems like that should also be a yes. It will increase traffic substantially if you have one operator that's doing 10 events a year of 500 people or more, or whatever the thresholds are. It's definitely going to increase traffic on a regular basis for people in those areas.
Well, I guess the question has to do with, what are we doing? We're enacting the law. Does the law increase traffic?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, it will. I mean, that's fine. I can also write to the state, but I think that's not, I don't think that's the sort of disingenuous answer. The law will create traffic in neighborhoods on a regular basis. Similarly, I think part 2, questions
So let's
2,
back
3,
up.
4.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So let's do this one at a time. I can give George a chance to reply. The first one you raised was was 5, right?
5, yes, that it would contradict zoning, and it does contradict the comp plan for some areas that were never intended to be event venues or concert venues.
Well, I think the answer, 5A is asking, is the proposed action permitted under zoning regulation? The proposed action is passing a law. So I understand what you're talking about, but what you're interpreting it is different than what the question is asking. What this is saying is, what we're proposing to do is pass a law. Is passing a law allowed under zoning regulations? NA, because zoning regulations don't really apply to whether or not the town board can pass a law. I understand what what you're going for. That's just not what 5A actually means.
Do you agree, George?
Yeah, it's actually, this law may actually increase the certain uses or permit certain uses in certain zoning districts in the town where they're not already permitted. However, the zoning code belongs to the town board. And if anything, it could be construed to be, if you wanted to, the local law as part of the zoning code, it could be literally an amendment to the zoning code, but
It could have been, yeah.
yeah, it's what the town may be, that it may not currently today be permitted under the zoning regulations. And again, I have to qualify. I'm a land use environmental planner with extensive experience in writing and administrative zoning. I'm not an attorney, okay? But I would interpret this to say that, you know, it's not contrary to the zoning regulations, it's an amendment by the town board, in my opinion, to the regulation.
I see Julie Cloud's got her hand up, but we're not done. You had Susan had other comments that were, you weren't
Yeah, it
done,
was right?
in
a similar vein to part 2, questions 2, 3, 4, 5, and 9.
We haven't got there yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure what way to interpret this is. I find it hard to believe it's just the passage of the law. Passing a law would never have an environmental impact. It's people sitting in a room. It's what the law would enable. So I think that analysis is incorrect. But is this just going into like the blank state email, or is there a specific contact that you're submitting this to where the public can provide follow-up context?
Well, I'm not sure. I understood
You're
the
asking
question.
what happens once we complete seeker review, where do we submit it? Is that the question?
Yeah, where are you submitting this form? Is it to a specific person at the state, or is it their general online submission form?
George,
The secret gets submitted to anybody. I mean, it's a mechanism for reviewing the environmental impacts of an action. There's a finding statement at the end, you know, whether there's a significant impact or not. Which finding is, you know, can be challenged, but there's no, it's not filed in anybody as far as I know, right?
Yeah, I mean, the secret process is essentially an exercise we go through in order to determine, in this particular case, this is an unlisted action. And so we're using the short environmental assessment form here. And the purpose of this phase of the review is to determine if there's any potentially significant adverse impacts that might come out of the adoption of this law. So,
I see.
yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what to make of that, but I think you're potentially doing yourselves and the rest of us a disservice by not considering some of these impacts. We had a lot of traffic and disruption in this neighborhood before this law. So if you're seeking a mechanism to enable those things, but saying there aren't going to be any of those impacts, to me just doesn't, the math doesn't work out. But I will cede the floor. I think Julie was next. Thank you.
I also,
Actually, let me just clarify. something, we're going through part one right now, which is really basic information about the town. Okay, and part of this basic information, we're interpreting that the proposed action, the adoption of this law is permitted under the zoning regulations. We're about to get to part two. And that's a series of questions regarding the potential adverse impact of adopting the law. So we can get through part one here, and then we'll go on to part two, we can discuss that. Okay, and that's where, again, it's identifying potential significant adverse environmental impacts of adopting this law, okay?
So, I wasn't sure, I was setting this up for a dialogue on matter, but, you know,
But, you know, as Mark was just mentioning, and Susan Perry mentioned, the law, well, you know, sitting in a room, you know, enacting a law isn't gonna increase traffic.
right,
But if the law is enacted, then traffic will increase.
Here, here.
So, so the question is, will the proposed action result in a substantial increase in traffic above present levels? You said no. So tell me more about that, George.
Okay, wait, where are you?
I'm on 8.
8A.
okay, good.
Here?
8, right,
Okay. Yes, I recommend checking off no there, because most of these events are gonna be relatively small.
No, these
no,
are large events.
most of them are relatively large.
They're large events. They're not gonna be relatively small. There's no, you're having a small event unless you're charging money. These are big events.
Okay, so,
I mean, the impetus for this is to enable large events, which are
Right.
which are otherwise not permitted uses of anything, any place.
I mean, and again, I don't know what the experience has been here in the town, so that's why, but, okay. Do you want to change that to yes?
Yeah, I would change
I
that.
think so too, yeah.
We can change it, okay. Did you,
I had the same thought. I think we can reasonably expect that these large events will in fact generate substantial
and
increase in
again,
traffic.
this, you know, envisioning, for instance, a lot of these events are gonna be taking place in relatively remote areas of the town. And so, yes, there's likely to be substantial increases in traffic on localized increases in traffic.
Yeah.
So,
Right, regardless of where they are.
yeah.
And they do have the potential because we even accommodate, you know, even on lots of an acre or less.
Yeah.
You know, there's a threshold for what would trigger a need for a permit. But if you meet that threshold, you know, there would be what we regard as substantial increase in traffic. But and the point of having the permitting process is that we will address the traffic impacts in the permitting process to ensure that it's not going to be a problem.
Okay, so we'll change that one to yes. And I think,
For the same reason, because they're in remote locations, there are no transportation services.
Well, that's what I was saying is that, you know, you can answer yes and no, because some of them might occur where there's access to transportation, like if it was, you know, on the bus route, but some of them might be on a back road someplace where there's nothing.
Can I, Joel, you're very allowing in general of of the public, but I haven't had a chance to ask my questions about this. So can we go through this and have town board members comment, and then if we want at the end, allow public comment? Because I'm finding that like we're getting comments and even some criticism, and I'm like still digesting and haven't had a chance
Okay,
to ask my questions.
Because that's what we were doing, we were going through it,
I
but
know, but then once people start, then other people think they have a right to it, but in the middle of this process, it might be a little more effective for us to digest and have a dialogue with George, and then when we're done, allow public input, so we're not bouncing around too much. Is
right,
that
because I
okay?
mean, the point of this was to have the board review the environmental assessment, not to have a discussion, a public meeting about the environmental impacts.
Okay, so I think for now, even if people raise their hands, we'll ask them to hold their questions so that we can go through the review and have a board dialogue about it.
So Mark, did you have questions because we went through this and nobody said anything when we did it?
Yeah, well, the traffic one, I was waiting for an opportunity to raise that one, but no, I mean, we haven't gotten into part two yet either, so I'm not holding on to any other than the one about traffic I wanted to raise.
Okay, because I did read that other point about, access to pedestrian and bicycle, accommodations and public transportation. And really the answer is yes and no,
Yeah,
because depending on where you have it in the town, you might have it and you might not.
yeah.
But there's no yes or no.
Well, I think it's, if it is anywhere in the property, then yes. If it's nowhere in the property, then no. I assume that's what we're supposed to do since this is such a large area.
So, okay, we're on to part two. We're gonna get impact assessment. And again, the answer is no impact or small impact. May occur is
Right.
potentially possible. And then there's two columns here. The second column, moderate to large impact may occur. Okay. The way the form works is if it's no or small impact may occur, then you move on.
Is small or large relative to the whole town or relative to the property? Like those words feel very
Yeah,
vague
what's
to
the
me.
difference between
What's
small,
small
moderate,
and moderate? Yeah.
It's a judgment call.
You actually, the way I would approach it is, relative to the whole town.
Okay.
Okay. But again, you can think, okay, there's certain roads, let's say. Half of the roads in the town, this is just totally hypothetical, okay? But half of the roads in the town of Danby are limited use seasonal roads. If I were writing this law and that were, a factor in the town, there would be language in that law. I would recommend language that said you cannot have these events on limited use seasonal roads, etc. Okay, so, and that's a way of mitigating potential impact as you're writing the law. Okay, that's just a hypothetical, but if there's any moderate to large impact, potential impact identified, then we have to do more homework at the end.
Okay.
Okay. So will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? Again, I recommend, small to, no or small impact may occur. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? Again, I recommend no, either no or small impact may occur. Again, there's.
There will be an impact, but
Again, I think it's we're talking about an impact. In the use or intensity of the land, how is that a no? We're talking about
No.
paid parties on land.
There's potential for impact, but then the question is, will it be a relatively small impact or a moderate to large impact?
So what's 500 people having a concert? You think
Well,
that's a
see-
small or no impact?
On the land? If you do it right,
Depends on what you compare it to. If we're talking about strip mining, yeah, that would be a large impact. If we're talking about 50 people gathering in a field, it's not nothing, but I
or
guess.
500 people.
And this is why part of the law though,
I meant to say 500, sorry.
Yes.
part of the law though is if it's a large event, it will require approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Right,
Yeah.
Right,
Okay, and they have specific criteria that must be met by the applicant. And most of those criteria are steps to take to reduce the impacts to a level where they're not gonna be significant.
So we're assuming that the system that we're putting together with the Board of Zoning Appeals will work to keep the change in use or intensity of use of land small.
yeah,
That's what it means to check the box, no?
And but I think more importantly, you know, it's reduce the impacts to adjoining properties, the adjoining neighborhood, the town's public road system.
right,
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's in the law.
Okay.
okay.
So,
so in other words, if we have been effective in our criteria for granting a permit, we have mitigated
Yeah,
and to the point where you can say that the impact is gonna be relatively small.
right.
okay. Again, yeah, there will be temporary, you know, intensity or temporary change, the use or intensity of lands.
Which if they become frequent enough, might become moderate to large, but we're limiting it to only 10 a year.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? And again, there is gonna be some impact. The question is it small or moderate to large?
It might be beneficial.
Yeah, these are very subjective. All these are so subjective.
They
It
are
makes me very uncomfortable.
Well, and that's the nature
Yeah.
of the secret review. It
Right.
is subjective.
Like I can totally hear voices, in the community saying it will, substantially improve the character or quality. And I can hear voices in the community saying it will negatively impact.
Yes,
And that's just, but it's
Yep.
just asking us to mark one box or mark another.
yes, that's the problem.
And again, your responsibility here is to take a reasoned hard look at potential impacts.
Yeah.
Okay. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? First, that would be no,
We don't have any.
yeah. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkways?
No, I think that's pretty clearly. Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand the wording. In an adverse change in the existing level of traffic.
Right, it's so subjective, temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
But also, what does adverse mean there? It will result in a change,
Mm-hmm.
but we know that we're allowing special events. That's
Right.
So it's not an adverse change, it's a change. Sorry.
I mean, there will be a temporary change.
Yeah.
But then the question is, in the zoning board's permit, what are the provisions that the town will impose on the sponsor of the event. And again, one of them is, actually, I noticed one thing that triggers the permit is people parking on a public road.
Mhm.
And I see many cases where just anticipating, a 500-person event, okay? If I were advising the zoning board, I would strongly recommend that all parking shall be on the premises.
Yeah.
Okay, with adequate ingress and egress, but you do not want parking along either the county highways or the town roads. Okay, and that's something that you can enforce, and again, in some of my experiences, back in another life, I was one of the organizers of the Ithaca Dragon Boat Festival. And we had to hire traffic people for security and also traffic management
Mhm.
for that event. Okay,
Yep.
so, and this is what the law is doing, it's setting up a process. For ensuring that the permit issued, the town is mitigating these adverts, so they're not gonna be significant. Will propose action impact existing public-private water supplies, no, public-private wastewater treatment utilities, again. One of the provisions in the law is that the event sponsors have adequate sanitary facilities.
Right.
For the number of people that they're planning for. Will the proposed action carry the character or quality of important historical, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? And again, small to moderate impact. Again, this is something. This is information that should be supplied to the zoning board.
Mhm.
Yeah, is it centered on a historic house? A house that's eligible for
Yeah.
listing, then the event sponsor should be providing protections to that particular structure or structures. Proposed actions of an adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, water, pond. Again, these are things that should be part of the review. And hopefully, I'm very confident actually that, yeah, there's gonna be protection for natural resources within the site.
Mhm.
It could be fencing, it could be whatever, but again, the law is giving the town the authority to impose these types of restrictions on the activity in order to protect the environment too. Okay. Proposed action result in an increase in potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems. And again, these are things that are covered or should be covered in the site plan
Mhm.
that will be submitted for the application for the permit. And then, of course, we get into earth disturbance and the state's stormwater pollution prevention regulations can also be imposed on these. So yeah, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? And again, we're not saying no impacts, but rather small impacts. Okay, so answer those questions on the first page. And again, this is a section, we have not identified any significant large impacts or large to moderate to large impacts in the previous page. But if you think there may be potential for any moderate to large impact, okay, this part 3 would have to be completed, which would be explaining what the potential impacts are, and then explaining why they are important to consider, but also explaining what, if any, mitigation measures may be imposed to minimize the potential for really significant adverse impact.
Is it necessary to say anywhere in that part 3 to say, you know, that we recognize that increasing or allowing for large events could have those impacts? And we believe that the process that we've created with the Board of Zoning Appeals, you know, has the necessary safeguards, or is that just implied by the fact that we selected no? I don't have any experience with this process in the past, so I'm just asking.
Well, that's what I wrote for draft here is in the bottom. Proposed action, adoption of local law to permit and regulate large outdoor events in the town of Danby and create a permitting process for such events. Purpose is better protect the health, safety, and welfare of the Danby community, to reduce or eliminate potential significant adverse impacts that could result from such events.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they were unregulated.
Sorry.
Unregulated events. That it could from, we're eliminating potential for significant adverse impacts that could result from
Unregulated events.
Of course, you know, they're not, regulations are the only way we're gonna allow them.
Right.
Because they're not allowed otherwise at all.
Well, we're allowing, you know, weddings and parties and.
Well, yeah, but we've stated in effect that those are exempt, because we regard them as customary residential activities, in fact. And so we don't regulate them at all. Or they're already allowed. But these bigger ones we're saying they're not allowed, because that's out of scale with what normally happens on residential properties. And we want to enable them to happen, but with careful safeguards to ensure that their impacts are not unreasonable. So is there
Shade cloth.
a finding, well, yeah, right, we need a motion to extend the meeting. How much time do you think, Maria?
Oh, an hour. Just give us an hour. If we leave in 15 minutes, we'll all be through.
Yes, I'm all for that. I second that motion.
Okay.
You want me to make that motion?
Well, you just did it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, and I just seconded it.
go for an hour.
You
Please.
get to vote on this.
What?
We're
Extend
motioning
the
to
meeting.
extend the meeting.
Sorry, they have to.
We have a hard stop at 2 hours unless we extend the meeting. That's what we're
Oh, okay.
about to do.
Yeah, sorry. No, you're not being skipped over. All right, Dylan.
Yes.
Larkins.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
thank you.
So where were we? So there's right, essentially a finding of no significant adverse environmental impact. If we think that which has been accurately filled out, and that that's our conclusion. Then I move that we so find.
A second.
Any further discussion?
Sorry, words not coming.
You're flabbergasted.
No, no, I just, I mean, there's gonna be, I get it that we're regulating large parties, but
Right.
they are large parties.
This is true. Unavoidable impacts from having a large party.
Well, unavoidable doesn't mean none.
No, and we're not saying none either. We're saying we're just saying that there will be an impact, but it will be sufficiently constrained by the requirements of getting a permit that they're going to be manageably small.
And we're saying we have created a process that will limit the impact to be a small or no impact.
Okay.
And that's what we're saying, you know, otherwise we wouldn't. We've created we created a law that will enable these events to happen, which we're not allowed at all. In the interest of, you know, increasing opportunities for social engagement, you know, for artistic expression, for, you know, socializing, that the community benefits despite the inevitable impacts of having a large gathering of any kind are worth it to us to enable. Got it?
There was online request to comment.
Right, Julie still has a hand up. Would you like to comment, Julie?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I have a simple question. I should know the answer to this, but I don't. Do we do, every time a law is enacted in Danby, is this process gone through, this seeker
Yeah.
review?
Yes.
And okay, because it was really unclear at the beginning whether this was a law about the impacts of sitting in a room making a law or about the actual impacts that will result as a result of that law, which is what the Seeker Act requires it to be. It requires government agencies to analyze the potential environmental, social, and economic impacts that will result from passing that law before it's officially enacted. So I just wanted to clarify because it wasn't clear from at the beginning that this was not just about the impact of you sitting in the room making the law. So that was all. Thank you.
I mean, I think I gave that answer, but I think that answer was specific to number 5, which was the question at the time, which was, is the proposed action a permitted use under zoning? But for example, if you look down at number 8, it says, will the proposed action result in? To me, those are two different things. The proposed action is passing a law, but then when you start to talk about the things in part 2 and the things in 8, you're talking about what will result from the proposed action. So the answer that I was given about the fact that we're just talking about is passing the law a permitted use, I think that was a correct answer about 5, but not about every question on the document. I think that's right, but someone should tell me if I'm wrong.
I think that's an excellent insight. And fairly represents the situation. Did you have there's another comment? Oh, Ted got his hand up.
Yes, I did. Mark, I think I agree with you on what you just said. That the first question, is passing law. It's permitted by the law to pass that law. Great. But when you talk about the potential impacts, you're talking about what might happen because of the law. That's first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree with you there. Section 2, question 5, adverse change in the existing level of traffic. Well, look, you're working on this because of a couple of specific instances. And I just want to point out to you that in one of those specific instances, the town or the county, I don't know who, ended up having to put up no parking signs. So yes, this very much could result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic. And not small or medium. It was large enough to require no parking signs. And finally, section 3, I just, let me put it this way. Everybody in this conversation is really good at splitting hairs. Me too. You too, Joel. And maybe I'm speaking a little too strongly here, but I think that your part 3 response is kind of disingenuous because just earlier tonight, I gave you an example how I could misuse that law easily by renting out a quarter acre of my land. I qualify for hundreds and hundreds of people and cars, and that quarter acre would, under the law as written, qualify for a quarter acre, hundreds of people. So yes, it's not going to protect health and safety and welfare. It's not. The law as written, I'm not saying, I think you need a law like this, but as written, I don't think it's not protecting against edge of the envelope situations. And if you write a law that you know isn't protecting against the edge of the envelope, you're not writing a good law. I think it needs more work.
I think, I'm afraid to disagree with you, Ted, which I rarely do, but the probability that the Board of Zoning Appeals would come up with a permittable scenario with 500 people on a quarter of an acre is pretty slim in my eyes.
As I read the law, if my property is 200 acres and I rent out a quarter acre, it isn't, the law says a property of 200 acres is allowed 300 people. The BZA will never see this thing. There's no need for a permit because I have hundreds of acres, even though the activity itself is going to be restricted to a quarter acre. And even though I'm not going to permit parking on those 200 acres, it's going to be all over the place, but it'll never get past the first 3 sets of conditions with number of people and size.
So you're saying essentially that the problematic gatherings can occur below the threshold.
Well,
given that,
because of the way it's
trigger.
defined, when you're depending on the size of the property, as opposed to the area of where the event is actually taking place, you've left a loophole that you can drive a truck through. And as I think you probably have seen in current events, in history and current events, if there's a loophole, someone will find a way to exploit it.
Oh, good point. That's something for us to think about.
Yeah, that's all I'd like you to do. Think real hard.
I think though, I'm sorry, one of the first steps in this whole review process, literally the first question to be answered is the property, is the site as proposed large enough to accommodate whatever number of people you want to participate in your event?
That you're correct. That's in the review process. And what I'm
Yeah,
saying,
what Ted is saying is that what he's saying is that our triggers are such that you can have large events that will never trigger a need for a permit. And so you can have these gatherings that are, aren't covered by the law.
Thank you, Joe.
And that's an interesting point.
But not particularly, nothing to do with the seeker.
No, because I mean, what this covers is what the law covers. And for what the law covers, I think we could say, we can legitimately say there's no significant impact because we mitigated it. What Ted is pointing to is unmitigated impacts for those because they don't reach the threshold requiring a permit.
Yeah.
And that's another point that this law doesn't speak to.
Okay.
So I think we're good to vote on the finding. Are we ready to?
Ready?
Yeah.
All right, Dylan. Yes.
Could you remove the share so we can see you?
Why is it the camera on? Or is it?
Oh, it is. It's the sharing. We're sharing.
Oh, okay, shut off
He was just
share.
asking to stop sharing.
Thank you.
Okay. Bruce.
Yes.
Daniel.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay. Next time, we will have the public hearing. Next up, possible appointment to Tompkins County Animal Control Advisory Board. I put this on the agenda before Leslie found that we had already done this. And so could you want to speak to that? Because that was, the question was, did we do it and was it a one-off? Was it intended to be forever until we changed it?
So the intent of that, I would argue, is entirely up to you guys. But in so much as, you know, the contract states that that the contract that created all this, all by the board, that someone should be appointed. It doesn't, you know, say any term limit or anything. I would interpret that to mean as the contract has an expiration date, that would also apply to that appointment. But that's, you know, really up to you guys to interpret on how y'all want to play with that. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to just reappoint a person. In fact, I think it might be good to just, I've actually heard from, clerk up in Ulysses, that it's just part of the organizational resolutions that they just,
Mhm.
you know, even if it's not a matter of like a term kind of thing, just lumping it in, you know, they already appoint the dog control officer as the SPCA and that.
Right, this is true, which we do annually.
Yeah.
Just essentially reaffirming the intent that it be the clerk. How do everybody else feel about that?
As I stated earlier, I think it belongs with the town clerk.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's proposing that we do it any other way. The question is whether we do it as a one-off, you know, it's a forever appointment, or whether we do it as an annual reaffirmation of.
Oh, I like the annual thing,
Do
you
you?
know, get it all done. Get it all done at that annual meeting.
But we could do it now just to affirm that this is in Blake's bailiwick. And then try to make it, if we could just remember, make it part of the annual organizational resolution.
Yeah.
So I move we do that we reaffirm what was previously stated, that the clerk is our appointee to the whatever the heck it's called, the
Tompkins County Animal
Animal Control Advisory Board, yeah. And that we reaffirm this periodically as part of the organizational meeting resolutions.
One second.
Ready?
Can I just, you did a motion by what you said, but we're not referring to the document that's linked in the agenda. Is that correct?
Oh, that's a good point.
Just because it's linked there and it's blank. And so I just want to make sure we're not voting on the blank resolution. We're voting on what you said, which I'm fine with. I just wanted to make sure.
Well, it pretty much says the same thing, but
That's fine. It's just it doesn't actually have.
you know, if we're going to do that, we'd have to fill in the blank.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
I drafted that just so that it was something.
Okay.
You know, I don't want people just being like, what is any of that? Is that important? Do we not have a person for that? And the answer is, we have had a person, we're all aware of it. It's just sort of like unspoken, except it is spoken, but maybe not.
Yeah.
A lot of weird stuff. I just threw together some language that would address that concern. So speaking motion has been made.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
And then in discussion, I'd like to point out that, you know, the last time this came around, I did it. And I think the only reason I did it was because I got an email from Jim Brudereau, saying, you know, we groups getting together, you know, it's late in the process. It's sort of like nobody brought it up that we should be meeting about this. So it had, I think it happened like in September or something. We met, and I went because, you know, I was invited. I didn't even know that there was anyone else appointed to it. But it makes a lot more sense for it to be the clerk.
Righty, any,
Right?
all right. Dylan,
Yes.
Larkin.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Gagnon.
Yes.
Thank you. And if I may real quick, I believe there's going to be, that meeting is gonna be scheduled for sometime in August.
Soon.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll probably But there's been a couple of things batted back and forth, but as the date gets closer, if there are any like significant modifications that are gonna be made to the contract, I will be happy to inform you guys, and I will, also announce it at public meetings when that will happen, and yeah.
Whether with you or me, if any significant contract modifications result, it has to come back to the board anyway for approval.
Now that you're on this board, you have to make as many animal related puns as possible. You know, like that you said batted back and forth. I was picturing. Yeah.
Good.
That is totally subconscious. My nose
Confirmation of hire. The hiring committee did quite the job of soliciting and screening 21 applicants for the remaining portion of the supervisor's bookkeeper and assistant to the supervisor job. And the unanimous recommendation of the hiring committee was that Laura Rivet, she pronounces it, appointed to that position, which is a recommendation I'm happy to endorse. So I guess I move that the committee's findings be endorsed, and Laura be hired.
Second.
Sorry, what's your name?
Well, this is gonna be problematic. We have two Laura's now.
You've got some big shoes to fill.
Just like the rivets, yeah.
And you're starting tomorrow.
I am.
Yay.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah, I know, we're all good, it's all right.
So the rivet is an anglicization of another French name like mine, Rivet, Gagnon.
And on Doucet.
Yeah.
You made me.
Ah, yes. Mhm.
Us French people.
Yes, we're all taking over.
Boy.
Oh, very good.
One have a really fun origin story.
Larson.
All right, so we're ready for the vote, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Nous sommes prêts.
All right, Dylan.
Yeah.
Vargas.
Yep.
Bruce.
Yes.
Daniel.
Yes.
Thank
Let's see, one more thing. Community meetings.
Yes.
July 16th.
We do have a date. Thank you for reminding me, July 16th. It's a Thursday.
Mhm.
And it's gonna be from 6:30 to 8. The remaining questions, so to come back, we talked about this at the last meeting. And the question was raised, if there are more than 2 board members, then that's a quorum. And so we need to, do we, and the answer is, or do we need to meet the open meetings law requirements? After talking to our attorney, the answer is
Yes.
yes. He did say recently the town of Lansing went through a similar question. They wanted to host town hall open houses, and they went through the same question and decided to limit only 2 board members at a time, and they would just rotate people in and out because they wanted to keep the meetings from meeting the need
Triggering.
thank you, from triggering the open meetings law. Thank you. So our options are, we can decide to limit and cycle 2 board members for each one. The challenge there is that if I'm organizing and facilitating them, then that really limits the number of board members to 1, at least until someone else wants to facilitate it. And that does feel pretty limiting. So that's one decision. Do we want to decide amongst ourselves to limit it and rotate board members through? If we don't want to do that, and we want to have 3 or more board members show up, I feel pretty confident. I mean, I talked to Blake about it, you know, that we can figure out what level of meeting minutes are really necessary. We went through the Committee on Open Government and the requirements are really pretty low, that if we're hosting a meeting that is not passing resolutions or votes, the requirement of the minutes is pretty minimal. So
summary.
right, it could just be, here are the board members who attended, no resolutions were voted on, a discussion was had on these topics, and that would be enough. That, and it would be in the purview of the clerk to decide if
What level
you know, if you wanted to do more than that, but certainly there's no requirement to have verbatim notes of a community forum, as long as the minutes say no resolutions were voted on, et cetera, et cetera. With the caveat that if it's a public meeting, and we allow residents to join by Zoom, there is an additional requirement that we then record those meetings and post them on the website, which might be fine. I have a little bit of a fear that it really, it just increases the level of formality and raises the idea that, I don't know, in what could otherwise be a sort of community building conversation, we then have the chance that someone could later look up, well, you said this in that conversation and I now have it recorded. There's something about recording what could otherwise be you know, a community building conversation that riles me a little bit, but maybe I'm misinterpreting that.
But don't we need to have if it's going to be a quorum of the membership there, don't we have to have a recording anyway?
We do not, according to Blake's understanding, which is that we only have to have a recording if we allow members of the public or town board members to join by Zoom. But we don't have to allow Zoom at all, and if we chose not to, we wouldn't be required to have a recording. It's kind of a crazy requirement because those two things don't really make any sense. Like,
no, they don't.
They don't, but that's how that, according to sort of Blake and my reading of the law, that's what it says.
But there's recordings of board meetings that go back 25 years.
Correct. It is always an option for the board or whoever to record, you know, it's happening in a public space. But there is not a requirement in the same way that there is when there is video conferencing involved. When there's video conferencing involved, there is a specific statute within open meetings law that requires you to have a recording, make a recording, and that such recording is kept for 5 years afterwards. Any recordings outside of that, yeah.
And not necessarily video recording, just an audio recording.
An audio recording.
It says recording. We've interpreted that, and it also specifies to the extent practicable, which we interpret to be audio because we're like holding on to video files adds up really, really fast. So audio recordings, I interpret and believe are efficient in keeping what they need for.
We did that way before video conferencing was available. Common practice to record the meetings in order to facilitate the minute, you know, creation.
And for the sake of transparency, when we're hosting a meeting where we're passing laws, I think that makes a lot of sense. But I think at least in my mind, I'm flipping it to what are we required to do if it's not a matter of, in my opinion, not a matter of transparency. It's a matter of we do need to meet the letter of the law, but that's all we're required to do. So that's what I was sort of trying to figure out is what are the things that we are required to do if we want to have 3 or more board members attend. So I think the first question is that one, is how do you know, we feel about limiting board members or not?
I would be for limiting only because it just makes it so much easier. And I would absolutely be willing to facilitate after being in a couple.
Yeah.
So would I.
That's great. Okay.
But
Joel is a facilitator.
yeah, right. But I hate to limit board attendance if for no other reason that the impetus as far as, you know, I perceived was that, you know, people come to these meetings and as was evident tonight, you know, they feel like they want to comment and talk about issues that are before us. And we have to limit it because there's just not enough time to do it at a regular board meeting without running to 3 hours of their meeting.
Yeah.
And if the desire is then to have an interaction with the board, limiting board attendance is kind of productive.
I thought you were there.
May I fill in a piece of the law, of the open meetings law that you didn't discuss?
I love that.
What you discussed was the part of open meetings law that deals with meetings that where people attend by video conference, and it was what you said was stated correctly. However, any public meeting, any meeting of a public body may be recorded by any member of the public. And further, if that meeting utilizes Zoom, I have an opinion from Committee on Open Government says if Zoom is in use, then you must allow them to record from Zoom because they're allowed to. In other words, there's a public medium that's being used, and you have to allow them to use it. So if you were to go down the route of having 3 or more people there, if you did not use Zoom, someone could walk in with a camera, and I hear Mark's objection, but or concern anyway, but they could. And if you did use Zoom, you have to allow recording on the Zoom meeting.
I think we acknowledge that, that if we use Zoom, then we have to allow recording.
But you
And we will
couldn't,
be recording it ourselves in any way by others, I understand, yeah.
but you couldn't stop anyone from recording it in any case.
No, this is true. In any public meeting, anybody can show up and record if they
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah.
Video or audio or both. Yeah.
And actually, I think that having the recording, while it may be occasionally, shall we say, having your feet held to the fire on something you said that didn't quite come out the way you intended, I think it's a good thing for the public, because then, there's no more of this. I hear this so often. So many people have said to me that without naming the people. Well, if you have a recording, you know exactly what people said.
Yeah, unless AI messes with it.
And my personal opinion is, the perspective you just shared is not necessarily the best for building relationships and building community. It's the
Correct.
best for holding government officials accountable when they are conducting government business. But, a big portion of what is driving me is feeling like people want to show up and talk. And I don't know that knowing that they are being recorded and it will be posted on a public notice so that someone can later quote them and bring it up. I don't know that helps foster
serve the process.
Yeah.
If I may recall more than many meetings of the town board where people have actually bothered to show up, I don't think it has stopped anybody in the past from speaking their mind, if they're of a mind to do it.
Okay, agree to disagree. Can we maybe
Yes.
limit now public input and go back to discussing it as a board?
Okay,
Yeah, so you were going to comment.
I was going to say words.
Speak.
That's, thank you. If we do not use Zoom,
Right.
the meeting will still be recorded for posterity's sake, legally, or no.
If we do not use Zoom, we are not required to record it.
I think,
3 or more.
whatever. This is actually like, this makes everything worse to me.
Yeah.
Like, this makes conversation so stilted to have this like phantom voice coming out versus just humans in a room.
Yeah.
It like, I don't know. I personally will not, and I've said this privately, I'll say this publicly. If this is a Zoom, turns into a Zoom like meeting, I want nothing to do with it.
I think that you're bringing up a good point, which is also just that if the goal is to build relationships and form community, I think people say things to people through the screen that they would not say to someone else's
Absolutely.
face. And I think there's a good, reason to at least try. We don't have to decide for every single community forum.
Yeah.
We're deciding for the first one. And if we find that a lot of people don't show up and we think we might get a lot better numbers,
Yeah,
host the second one and include Zoom.
yeah.
There are trade-offs.
I don't think it's gonna really matter. I think either people are gonna show up I don't think Zoom's gonna influence it, because I've never, I mean, you've come to the skate park meetings before. We've had small turnouts, we've probably had, I think, 15. And that's like not an official thing.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful because, I mean, we are uniting for one common thing,
Yeah. right.
but like, it's all about in person. It's all about like being able to stare at the person, because like I've had a lot of people come after me online, and boy howdy, I mean, I realize like it might be a little different because I'm not exactly a tiny figure in person.
Yeah, right.
And you can talk a lot of shit online, but
But you're intimidating person.
I'm not intimidating. I just,
Yeah, right. I'm not intimidating.
that's just.
So interesting, I observed that the hybrid is in some ways more awkward than either of in itself. Now, the Zoom meeting is just a Zoom meeting
Horrible.
is, I don't think it's horrible at all. You relate to each other in a different way, which enables some things to be said that you wouldn't say in a live gathering. And conversely, there are things that you could, if they happen in a live gathering, you read the body language differently and stuff that you don't get with Zoom. Mix them, and it's hard to, it's hard to,
I agree. I've facilitated all Zoom and I've facilitated in person. Facilitating hybrid is the most awkward. I've found it just flows the least smoothly.
it's hard to do both simultaneously.
Indeed,
People are having different experiences.
right.
So
So I think there's a question of whether or not recording matters, if it's not Zoom. I think,
Well, if we limit it to 2 board members, I don't know, maybe limit it to 2 board members for the first one and see how it goes.
it's true.
I mean, we could have one that's with all the board and record it and have people record it and go that way, have it on Zoom, do all that. But yeah,
Maybe not
we don't
for the
have to
first one.
be they don't have to all be the same.
Yeah, and people have also come to me and said, oh, we should have one, people are interested in talking about agriculture in town. It's like, oh, maybe in the future, we have one that's more like a panel. We have, 3 or 4 people, and maybe a panel, it doesn't matter if you have some people on Zoom and some in person, that's a different thing. And so maybe we can just be flexible. And so for right now, for the first one, I hear you proposing we limit it to 2 board members for the first meeting. That's going to be in July, and we can just revisit it for the future ones.
Yes. See
my preference would be the other way around.
To
have as many of us as possible attend, but maybe not do the Zoom.
not do Zoom. Honestly, I'm okay with that one too. That feels like an okay balance to me. I meant to text Leslie just to see if she had an opinion about these questions, but I forgot. I do think I'm persuaded to limit it to in-person for the first one and see if we can get people to show up. I'm sort of committed to creating a flyer and putting it up in the next week or 2 to try to increase, and I'm going to write something for the newsletter. And you're proposing to not limit the number of board members.
Have it be just in person.
It'd be just in person with whichever board members want to show up, and the requirement of the clerk to take minutes or to delegate someone else to take minutes. That is the only thing that specifically impacts people.
Yes, the caveat of the clerk delegating someone can also pass back to you guys, because if I'm not there and my deputy's not there, it actually falls to you guys to pick someone.
This is true. If the deputy, I mean, if you fail to
Yes.
if you fail to execute the obligations of your office, we can then appoint somebody.
Okay.
I can't technically actually delegate a third person.
Yeah,
But you can
no, it's gotta be,
choose not to, and it would be up to us. We can delegate it.
if right,
Not just
Yes. With that in mind,
but you want to be there anyway.
yeah.
We're having it at your house.
I'm sorry. Someone to knock on your window.
then personally, I think we should record it, but audio.
Why?
Well, to facilitate the minute creation. And also if there's a question and somebody done, like said, who said what? You've got the audio to fall back
It's so
on,
funny, that's almost exactly why I don't want to.
because you don't want to.
And I want to be clear, I speak in public meetings all the time. I'm not worried about someone having a question about what I say. I just feel like it changes things to know that you're being recorded
Oh,
and
yeah.
to know that someone can go back and look at what you said. And if we're not passing laws, if we're not, taking those steps.
I mean, they could do that anyway.
What
I mean,
is
you could
the-
say, Mark said, but then you have nothing, and then Mark doesn't say, no, I didn't, it becomes a he said, she said kind of thing where I remember me saying this, but you remember me saying that,
Right, that could happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, I don't feel that strongly about it, but I think that, not having it be Zoom addresses most of the concern about the awkwardness of relating to two different populations of people attending a meeting.
Yeah.
What's it gonna be, Mark?
The clerk.
It's gonna be me asking a question first. So the only other thing about recordings is that recordings, when they are used for transcription purposes only, have a very different records retention schedule. This nerd in me, records retention all the way over here. Very different records retention schedule than when used and kept as a part of not public record, because that's actually pretty specifically written out in open meetings law, but that's an exception to itself. When not specified, I believe is a year, when used only for transcription or creation of minutes purposes is 4 months. When it used in combination with video conferencing, which is not a matter of this, is 5 years. So just with those things in mind, given that we don't have any outstanding policy on, audio recordings made by the town that don't fall into anywhere in there, my general rule would be, a year. It's foilable 100%. So if that is something that the board is going to be recording.
We do have a policy, and the policy is that we will keep an audio recording of our meetings in perpetuity.
Yeah,
We have erred on the side of in perpetuity. It is not, set in stone anywhere. Granted, the audio recordings from, 4 or 5 years ago are a little, and even within the past 5 years are a little, just because there's been so many file transfers that there's things have just missing. That happens, especially with digital migration, all that kind of stuff. Done our best to compile them as best as possible, but no system is 100%.
Yeah.
okay, so are you guys just gonna decide?
Well, here's the question. Here's a question that informs this. If it is a public meeting, because we have 3 or more people,
Yeah.
we would have to schedule it as a special meeting. Is that right? Or is it just a meeting, but we have to schedule it? Because it's not a part of our regular town board meetings.
No, but it's a meeting.
It's just doesn't matter if it's.
Well, what do we call it? This is not unlike the group we created to do the rezoning, and also the regulatory review committee, which in any one of these meetings you can have the quorum. Of course, they were all Zoom meetings, but in part, but they triggered the need to have the minutes kept and public notice of them, but we didn't call them special meetings. They were still the meetings of the regulatory review committee. In this case, we're calling it a community forum, or whatever you want to call it, but that's happens to be also a town board meeting if quorum shows up.
How much in advance? Because we would have to schedule it, meaning, and that could just be me proposing a motion right now, right? Making a motion.
Well, we already scheduled it.
You don't necessarily have to publicly schedule a special meeting, there was the
Oh, no.
instance. Yeah, there was the instance, it just has to be noticed to the public.
Oh, okay. So
So
we don't
just
have to
like-
pass something to
Yes.
declare it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to propose that we do not limit the board members. And we do not enable Zoom participation for this first one. And the minutes be kept in writing and not recorded for the first one. And if there are real problems and issues with that, we can keep hashing it out for future meetings. That's my suggestion for this first community forum.
Okay, I'll second that.
Great. I don't know if it's, I wasn't actually sure if it was something we needed to vote on. I was mostly just saying, this is what I think we should do.
Why not make it a motion and then
Right,
get it in
it's a
the record?
motion.
That's how we're gonna do it.
Okay. Okay. Do you want me to restate it?
Yes, that would.
All right, I'm just moving that we decide the community forum will,
For this first one,
the first community forum we will not limit the number of board members. We will not enable participation by Zoom or record it. Or have an audio or video recording, if that is distinguishable from minutes.
Not limited in board members, no audio or video recording maintained by the town. That's an important
Yep.
distinction.
By the town, that's what I meant, yeah.
right, anybody else could show up to record if they want to.
Yes. And no Zoom.
Yep.
So that would, I'll second that. A little bit of discussion. Do we, is it, suppose only 2 board members show up? Is it a board meeting?
No, we don't have quorum.
Not quorum. In so much as I'm still able to take minutes,
It might be nice to have something, notes taken anyway.
yeah,
Would be notes taken of an informal community meeting. If there's not quorum, then it can't be a meeting.
Well, it can't be an official meeting.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Zach, you wanna say something?
No, not yet.
Words in your head. They're not ready, no.
Not today.
Yeah, so essentially, it becomes a meeting if 3 or more of us show up,
Yes,
and it's not if we don't.
yes.
Okay,
all right. Dylan,
Yes.
Larkins.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Gagnon,
yes,
thank you.
okay.
Charting new territory.
Yeah, right.
Exciting.
Anything you want specifically next time?
We should talk about special events law permit fee. Greg wanted us to talk about that.
General code,
General code.
Yeah.
you have access.
I do, I got that. Thank you.
Okay, good. You got it?
The fee,
Do you need any training?
I'll figure it out.
fee for what?
The special events law permit fee.
Uh-uh.
The law says the town board
That's by the
sets
town
it, and
board.
we have to set it before it becomes law, so it's not unclear.
Mhm.
We never finalized Laura Shawley's contract terms, right?
Is she still leaving at the end of June?
Yeah,
So I think we last discussed it and said we really wanted, I mean, I think a few of us said we wanted a contract with some kind of limit so that we could renew it. And I think we ended that you were going to talk to Laura and come back to us with just some suggestion. 6-month contract, whatever it was, some kind of, or not to exceed a certain number of hours or something. If I recall, there were just, I think a few of us were.
I thought we did put something in place because as a result of Mariah's raising the issue, where we're talking about.
You two were gonna work together and put together a consulting contract.
Oh. Then we better do that.
Is that what we're
You said you were very familiar with consulting contracts, and so the two of you were gonna work together and put together a contract.
Oh,
Let's work on that for the next
Okay.
meeting. I don't remember that.
So you can come to the next meeting with your little contractor, although, we might, have the new person all trained.
well,
Well, yeah.
that's wishful thinking, I think.
Again, Laura still works for the town, or Laura Shaw.
She's right, she's not going away,
So it's not like she's going to,
right, she'll be there to answer questions. And, it's gonna take at least a year to get through all of the things that come up. And maybe even longer, because there's some things that come up in less frequently than that, you know, things like insurance reviews and whatnot, you know, that you might not see in a year. So these questions will recur. The basics, you know, will take a while to train somebody too. And we have, of course, dragged this out until June. And Laura, you know, was just essentially hoping to end at the end of June.
Yeah, I think we could work with that. I mean, except for some questions.
Yeah, well, then we need to, essentially, we need some mechanism for saying, well, then, you know, beyond that point, then what? That's what we can address.
Work on something.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, we'll do that for next one. Yeah.
okay,
Okay,
very good.
all right. And with that, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
What?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Welcome, Laura.
Yeah. Into the end of an almost 3-hour meeting. Pretty impressive.
We don't usually, it's usually not this bad.
Is that true?
Whoops.
I feel I don't feel like this was the best.
This one was not bad. It's not bad. Would you? Go to the next. Hey, go to the next.
Don't say that.
And was that was sitting through?
Don't do that. No. I won't.
That was sitting through?
Yeah, yeah, no, it was actually really interesting.
Oh, right.